Hi, this is a weekly update for Mr. Fix's science class for the week of September 27th. This week was all about the Penguin Shelter Engineering Challenge. So students finished their group design, they finished building their shelter based on the costs that they were going to spend for their various materials. And then on Tuesday, they tested their shelter. So let's take a look at that testing process. Recorded the mass of the ice cube penguin into their data table. Then they put the ice cube penguin in their shelter. Then they place the shelter into the hot box that's about 120 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 minutes. And after 20 minutes, they then took it out and remeasured the mass afterwards. Then we copied down the data into their correct periods data table for the mass before, mass afterwards, the percent mass change, and the percent mass remaining. That basically told you how much of the penguin was left over. So the higher the number, the better. We made a graph out of it, indicating that. We recorded the cost of their shelter and took the cost into consideration for the overall value of their shelter. So they took the percent mass remaining divided by the value to get divided by the cost of the shelter to get the value. So the higher the number, the more valuable the shelter was, the more efficient it was at protecting the penguin versus the amount of money spent on the shelter. So based on those results, then the students recorded if they were successful. If they had a penguin left over, they were successful based on the percent mass remaining. And then what 2 changes will we make to your first penguin shelter for a new structure in the second round? So then students had to look at the 5 methods of heat transfer that was most affected their shelter and their penguin. So they thought radiation was the most responsible for their ice cube penguin melting. They designed a change to counteract that radiation. They thought it was convection, where hot outside air molecules would interact with the inner cooler air molecules in the inside. Then they had to come up with a change that directed or counteracted that method of heat transfer. So they had to describe the change and the reason for the change based on that. Then they went ahead and did the redesign with a labeled diagram. Then they had to explain how radiation, conduction, convection were counteracted by their design. And then they had to determine the cost of their second build. And then they got approval for the redesign and they started building it. So that's what we did this week. Hope you have a good weekend. Bye-bye.